right, everybody, we are back with another Ramp Careers daily update. Today, I am joined with both co-founders, Mitch and Manoj. Boys, how you doing?
Doing well, Danny. How are you?
Doing great.
Doing well. It's hump day. We made it. We're over the hump. Now we're smooth sailing into the weekend.
Hell yeah, I'm ready.
All right. Rich is ready. Manoj maybe delayed. He'll be ready in a couple of days. Anyways, today we've got a juicy topic, something tactical, something that we've all done, and that is nailing the call to action at the end of your email to gain that next conversation, a reaction, the meeting, and whatnot. All right, yeah, before we jump into the conversation, let's quickly define call to action for our audience. So a call to action is usually a phrase, it's a marketing term, but can be applied to sales. Generally, it means an action that you want your target, your prospect, your buyer to take, and exactly how to take it. So now that we have that in mind, let's jump into some discussion. We were talking about this ahead of the session. Manoj, I know you had some thoughts, as we all did, but what's your high level on the perfect call to action at the end of any email or message?
Yeah, I know this is a pet peeve for Mitch as well, so I'm sure he'll have some thoughts. But one of the things that I realized just through the process of asking for people's time by email is eliminating the back and forth of trying to figure out time. So I think what does not work or is not as effective anymore is where you go something like this. How's your calendar this week or early next week? Right? At least if you're asking for someone's time for an intro call or a demo, because that just invites someone to having to check their calendar, send you a list of times, and then you have to match with your calendar again. Because now you have it's not one call to action, it's asking people to do two things. One, check their calendar, get back to you. You have to check your calendar, get back to them. And man, if you've already been through the effort of having someone open your email and respond to you, you want to eliminate chance of drop off. And to me, every additional scheduling email is an opportunity for them to drop off and just not care, mostly because they've gotten busy, and second, you haven't proved out your value proposition yet, right? So it's on you to get time from them. So I am a big fan of people sending out either their calendar link, something that I can click and then go see if there's mutual availability, and I'll just select a time. I think that that's a better way to go. Now, if you don't have that at a minimum, I think it's okay to maybe suggest a series of days and times. That's another alternative. I know that there's a bit of a debate, and Mitch, I'd love to kind of pick your brain on it, is I see a bit of debate recently on these pick a time for my calendar link below being impersonal. I've actually heard this firsthand from a few people that say, oh, if someone's trying to schedule time with me, what is this? Like, why are they sending me their calendar link? It's almost like an ego thing. To me, it's a function of convenience, but I have heard this firsthand. Are you noticing that? Is that just, maybe a bad sample size of people being silly? Or do you think that these emails should have both options, just a series of you type out all the times you're available, but then they're all clickable, and clicking it will automatically take you to the screen that sets up a calendar invite? I wonder if that's something that's irking people. What do you think?
That sounds like it could just be like some LinkedIn controversy just to get likes on and comments on your post. But that even if it is real, there's an easy solution, which is, sure, you can write out the times if that makes people feel better about selecting some time to speak with you. But I think you nailed it, Manoj. And look, I just pulled up a couple examples here. Actually, Danny, if you can let me share my screen. You want to minimize back and forth. You want to make it as easy as possible. Somebody book a time on your calendar. The second they leave your email, the higher probability that they're never going to come back and actually respond to you. So this is what I see time and time again is relatively young or new sales people or SDRs send an email like this. Maybe it's a well-crafted email, and then the call to action is just like, hey, if you think this could benefit you, let me know when we can chat. And that's so broad. It's one of my biggest pet peeves when I get an email personally like that from somebody. Now I have to go do all the legwork to find times that work for me and then send them back to you and wait for you to respond and wait for the calendar invite. Much better to either option A, which is list out, days and times, give them a couple days, a couple times, format it correctly. Don't put it all together as one long run-on sentence, but bold it out for them, or give them a calendar link. This would be linked here to their calendar, and let them just pick right from there. A little bit easier because it's going to send the actual calendar invite off as soon as they do that. Another big pet peeve, if you send out days and times, put the actual dates in there, right? Because no telling when they're going to read these emails. It could be next Monday or the next Monday. And then put the freaking time zone in there, especially if you're working across a bunch of different accounts. There's no clue where people are located these days. A couple simple formatting tricks are going to make your life easier. It's going to make it easier for the prospect to respond. And I guarantee you'll get better and more booked meetings from it.
Manoj, I knew you had some thoughts here. Why don't you take it away?
Danny, going back to Mitch's point on dates and time zones, am I being nitpicky, or would you suggest that people send time zones that are pertinent to whoever the receiver is? Put a little bit of thought into it, because that can be confusing, man. I mean, daylight savings, mountain time, Eastern, Pacific. At the risk of sounding like a fool, there are times that I have to go and Google and check for time in Chicago. I can't tell. It's confusing. Maybe I'm in the minority, maybe I'm a little bit stupid, but if I were an SDR and when I send emails, and I still do, some of them are cold emails, some of them are semi-warm emails, I will go put the time in the time zone that the person is at and not my time zone. But is that me being too nitpicky, or do you think that's a good idea?
No, I mean, I think this all adds into the sales play, right? You want to be as respectful as possible, as personalized as possible, and make sure that the message is catered directly to your audience in many ways. And I think that's a nice touch. It's a nice little add-on that says, I get who you are. I'm doing it to be on your time, not on my time. Once we lock in, then we can have a sales discussion. But right now it's on me to kind of chase you down, and I know the role. A nice and respectful way to write an email as well.
And it may go unnoticed by the prospect completely, right? That's what you want. You want to reduce friction. So if now they have to convert time zones in their head, it's another reason for them not to respond to you. So just reducing that friction as much as possible. Definitely a must-have.
One more question. This might be silly, but I've seen this happen. Sometimes I feel like that's the right answer. Sometimes it's not. I'll ask you the question. You may run into scenarios where you email someone that's senior and they may have an executive assistant, and they'll reply to the email saying, Paul copied will help schedule some time. When that happens and you're trying to coordinate time back and forth, do you CC the person you're trying to reach out on the entire thread? Do you drop them and add them back later? Have you guys thought about this? Has this ever come across your mind, or am I just like overthinking this?
It's a good thing to talk about. I would say the point where I will add the person back, the only point where I'll add the person back is if after numerous unsuccessful attempts to schedule with the executive assistant, I still can't nail down a time, that's when I will loop back in the main point of contact. Other than that, I try to keep that person off the thread. They clearly wanted the executive assistant to handle and spare them the inbox. Again, that's a respectful way to do emailing.
Gotcha. So your suggestion is the second day, refer you to their EA. You stop including them on all future correspondence. The only reason you'd include them is if you're not making progress with setting up a time.
I think that's good. I think it's respectful. And I think you're right on point there, Manoj. When you're thinking through call to action, make sure it's a few things. Make sure it's simple, make sure it's concise, and make sure it's strong. And what I mean by that is instead of saying something like, let me know a couple times that work, say something like, does it make sense for us to connect for 5 minutes next Tuesday at 1:30? ? So again, you're just making them lock into something very specific. And again, the ask should be very, very simple and easy for them to respond to. A demo request potentially is pretty complex, and it's a pretty heavy ask for somebody you've never met over email. So make sure you're communicating effectively a simple ask to somebody so they can easily say yes. You're just looking for engagement on most emails, not necessarily to lock in. That'd be the ideal state, obviously, but you're not going to close, probably not going to book a demo straight from an email. So just get them to engage with you and start a conversation. Cool. So this has been a great discussion. I think we got a lot of tactical information out on call to action and what the ideal ones are. For Mitch and Manoj, this is Danny with another Ramp Careers Daily Update. Thanks for tuning in, everybody.
Thanks, guys.